All right, so Molly and Jill, this is our responses. And I want to let our audience know this was kind of a trick question because all the definitions are correct. But our topic today is definitely going to be the relating to or being a method of harvesting or using a resource so that the resource is not depleted or permanently damaged. Sustainable techniques, sustainable agriculture. And so we'll go into that a little bit more. Let me get us back to there we go. So welcome. Molly, if you want to kind of give us a background of what you've been doing and working on for C&M as far as it goes with the sustainability. I am in the Oxford House, which is across from one of the sustainability houses, I believe. I don't know. And so I thought that was so cool that we have those opportunities.
Yeah, so hi everybody, I'm Molly. I wear a lot of hats at C&M. I was just telling everybody earlier that I run multi-million-dollar projects like solar, lighting controls, erosion controls, water and electrical submetering. And then what you're talking about, that eco-mod house, is actually a house that was built in partnership with UNM architecture students and as well as C&M trades students. It's a little module, like green built module house that's really energy efficient. So we also have a lot of academic programs, and I'm somewhat involved in those sometimes. It just depends on what the project is and if I fit in to that role. So I also kind of act as a liaison between faculty and facilities if they want to use the campus as a living lab. So a couple of cool things that C&M is working on now. We're wrapping up a 1.3 megawatt solar facility. That might not mean anything to you. You're like, what does that mean? And so if you've ever been to Westside campus, there are 3 large buildings, and one of them houses like a major server for IT, a lot of energy consumption over there. And there's a soccer field that the city owns just adjacent to our campus that has huge soccer lights that are also tied into our utility. So there are lots of energy being used at that campus. And we also had about 20 acres of available land to develop. And so we were having a hard time figuring out where to put solar panels on rooftops because a lot of our buildings haven't been built solar ready. So we would have to renovate the whole building. And so we took a look at all of the space available at C&M, and we came up with the idea to put the solar panels on the ground on some of that available land. So the 1.3 megawatt solar facility covers about half of that land, or 9 acres of land. And there's also a battery energy storage system there. And you might not know what that is either, but when we're producing a lot of solar energy throughout the day, we might not be using it all, we might not need it all. And so those batteries store the excess energy, and they kick on when we need that energy when the sun is not shining. So it's a really efficient system that we have out there that supplies 50 to 70% of all of the electricity demands at Westside campus. So that's wrapping up right now. It is in operation. We are right now harvesting the solar energy. We're just tying up a couple of loose ends to make sure that the battery energy storage system and the solar panels are engaging in exactly the way that we're supposed to see, so that we get the biggest benefit, not only in conserving the resources, but also so we can cut down our energy bills. So it's a win-win situation. Working on a couple of other green projects right now over there. Erosion control projects to keep the water that's flowing to the Rio Grande clean, because that is partially a source of our drinking water. Mm-hmm. And always lots of educational outreach things going on, like Water in the Desert, where we have speakers come on campus and talk to the community about our water resources. And also Recycle Mania is something we just wrapped up. And this year, which is it's actually called Campus Race to Zero Waste right now. They changed the name because there's different organizers of it now. But what we do every spring semester is engage the campus community on recycling best practices, and we track our waste and recycling This semester, because of the pandemic, we were not able to track everything, or it wouldn't make sense. It would screw with our baselines, and we didn't want to do any of that. So rather, we just did an online campaign. So through CNM social media channels, mostly CNM's sustainability Instagram on illegal dumping. So it's waste and recycling. We talked about how to recycle right at home, how to compost if you're kind of interested, but you don't know how, and things like that. So lots going on at CNM. I could talk forever, but I'll just leave it there. And it's nice to meet all of you. And thank you for being here and for your interest in sustainability.
Oh, I love it. Oh my gosh. So this, of course, past year, I'm not much of a green thumb. So, I just felt so overwhelmed when I started like looking into everything as far as, okay, what is composting? What do I do with this? What do I do with that? And then, my family, they're huge on recycling. And so I remember the first time that I put a pizza box in the recycle, and my brother was like, you don't do that. You don't put the pizza box in the recycle because it's this. And I'm like, but it's cardboard, so there's all this stuff. So Jill, I want to welcome you to the conversation and give us kind of a spill of what's going on with the solid waste of Albuquerque and what programs you've got.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. And I really appreciate you inviting me today. This is a great group of like-minded folks, it sounds like. The city of Albuquerque Solid Waste Management Department is huge. It's one of the largest departments in the city. And so everyone's probably familiar with, the collections division, which does your residential trash and recycling, commercial trash. We own the landfill, we own the 3 convenience centers. We have a Clean City program, which does the weed and litter abatement and graffiti removal and roadway median maintenance. So all of that is, we're very much in the community. Very, we really touch everybody's lives, I think. But specifically toward the environmental focus, we are environmental in that sense. We're out there to make sure that the city is clean and that sanitation is taken care of. So we are all about the environment every day. But specifically, I just wanted to point out some of our recent projects where we currently have some trash trucks that are fueled with compressed natural gas, with CNG. And right now they're the recycle trucks that we've specifically designated for that. We're using a commercial fueling station. I don't know if you've noticed, but Flying J at least has CNG fuel available to the public. So we're using that station to fuel. But we're also looking at developing our own CNG fueling station here at Solid Waste. And so we can have that close to home. In addition, we're building a new vehicle maintenance facility, and we just have needed one for years to replace our existing one. But moving forward, it will be a CNG, CNG certified facility where you have to follow certain safety protocols in order to work on CNG vehicles. So we're very excited about that. People, I don't want to argue with myself, but people look at electric vehicles as being kind of the pinnacle of where you should be in vehicles, in environmentally sound vehicles. Unfortunately, in the world of waste collection, those vehicles are still in their infancy. There's a lot of weight involved in a collection vehicle. We have to go up 9 Mile Hill to the landfill, which is a strain on a vehicle. The cities I know who have invested in electric collection vehicles, usually it's 1 or 2. They do a very limited kind of small route because of the distances involved and the capacity for the batteries to carry that truck. So it's in its infancy. So I'm not saying we're ruling it out, but we're just not ready to invest in electric collection vehicles yet. So I think, again, the CNG part is, moving on that path. Okay, moving on that path toward more sustainable collection vehicles. We also are working at this is something we've done, but we're trying to expand it. At the landfill, you probably are aware that as putrescibles rot, they create landfill gas. And it unfortunately is a terrible, methane is a terrible greenhouse gas, once it's created. we have captured at the landfill, as we're required to do safely, this landfill gas. And a portion of it, we built a pipeline over to the jail, and a portion of that landfill gas is getting sent over to the jail. And they are using it, it's about a 50% methane mix, or that's what it comes out at, about 50% methane. Natural gas, CNG, or any natural gas, is about 90 to 99% methane. So you can see that it's kind of a weaker fuel than natural gas, but it's methane just the same. So we send it over to the jail. They use it in their hot water boilers for heating domestic hot water, for like laundry and cooking and things like that. They also use it for boilers for comfort heat. Like they have a hot water heating system at the jail. So we're excited about the ways that they have been able to use this gas. And now we have excess of it that we are trying to see if there's another use besides the jail, that we can maybe turn it into something more valuable than just flaring it off, which we do for safety reasons. And then finally, I just want to talk about recycling right. I know Molly talked about that a little briefly. You know, we have gotten more recyclables now through our residential program and our drop-off programs. I think more people are at home, more people are maybe tuned in. I don't know, it's great, it's great. We're getting a lot of recycling, a lot of cardboard, you know, a lot of that Amazon cardboard. So we just want to make sure that people have the tools and the knowledge of how to recycle right. And so that's another thing that I'm working on, is to try to reduce contamination in our recycling stream. That's it in a nutshell.
Oh my gosh, that's a
was
lot.
a huge nutshell, wasn't it?
Yeah, that is a huge nutshell.
Yeah, don't get me talking.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Yeah, both were so filled with so much information. I'm trying to take some notes, and I'm just, you know, in awe of the things that are happening around us that a lot of us don't even know about.
Mm-hmm.
I know, you know, Molly works real hard to promote some of the things that C&M does in-house. And sometimes the message doesn't reach everybody. And then, you know, sometimes when you talk about these things, they seem so big. So like one person feels like, well, I have no impact, you know, it's just me by myself. But like Jill, like you mentioned, you know, all of our Amazon boxes. And I was a huge contributor this past year, I'm sure.
Yes,
thank you.
So what are, like, this question is for either one of you. What are some things that like a single person can do to have somewhat of an impact and feel that they have, you know, participated in sustainability or recycling or anything like that?
You want to take that, Jill?
Or you both?
Sure.
I mean, both, honestly.
Sure, you go ahead, and then I'll take it in a different direction.
Okay, I'll start. So I think that for individuals, and we've looked at this quite a bit, you know, how do you promote or encourage behavior change? Okay, because that's really what recycling is about. You know, people have to make those decisions. You know, do I recycle this? Do I throw it in the trash? And then to be motivated to do that, and recycling the correct, you know, having the knowledge of what's correct, you know, what's on the list to recycle. And what we found in looking at behavior change, and you may know this, but one of the top contributors to behavior change is word of mouth through your peers, through your family, through your friends, through your neighbors. That's a huge promoter of behavior change. So I guess what I'm saying is, you might say, oh, it's just me, you know, okay, I'll recycle. That's not very important. You know, you might not feel like that's a big thing to do. And I guess what I'm encouraging you to do is not only take it upon yourself to learn, you know, how to recycle right, what's recyclable in your program or in our program, but then share that with your family, with your friends. Felicia, you were talking about that pizza box. I mean,
okay, so why can't I recycle my pizza box?
It's a perfect example. You know, we learn from, again, our peers. And so I think that's where you can make an impact. You know, you could be that person that your mom calls and says, hey, can I recycle this? So again, I just urge people to be that cheerleader, if you will, for recycling, and it'll go so much further than just, you know, your recycle cart. And along those lines, there's a Recycle Coach app, and it's on our website for the city. Oh. And it's a great handy tool. You can also download it to your smartphone. You can literally type in, pizza box, and it will say, no, that goes in the trash. Or you can say, aluminum can, and it'll say, yes, put it in your recycling. So that's a handy tool to have. And even if you don't have all the answers, you could be the one that, people call and you're on your phone texting, checking out Recycle Coach.
What's the app called? And I'll put it in our
called
chat.
Recycle Coach. Yeah, it's Recycle Coach. Okay, and you can pick it up too off of our solid waste department page. We have a little area that you can see it, and it works online as well as a cell app. Okay. Awesome. And then and I don't want to take up all your time, but the final two things I want to say is, the things that you can do on a regular basis besides recycling are reuse. So bring your own reusable shopping bag. I have some things to show you. So, bring your own recyclable shopping or reusable shopping bag. Like, I probably can't see much here, but
oh, that's cute.
This is actually made out of recycled plastic bottles. So we actually have recyclable content, but also reusable. This is much better than, paper or plastic, just reuse it. And the second thing I want to bring up is, and you maybe haven't thought of this, is reusable takeout containers. This is one that we have kind of as one of our giveaways for, booths and things like that. It's a cute little bowl with a lid for Keep Albuquerque Beautiful. You can put that in your purse. Men, I think, have a harder time with these, but you put it in your purse and it's really small. I had bought another one. This is a camping outdoors one, like a backpacking equipment. I got it from REI. And it's got a screw top lids for liquids, and it's a nice little takeout container. So again, it's not necessarily the kind of age-old paper or plastic question. It's just bring your own and reuse. And you would be surprised, or maybe not, but how little waste you generate when you start using reusables. And then the final thing I want to say, and I know I'm monopolizing your time, is cleaning up, being part of your community by taking part in cleanup events. Starting on Earth Day, the Saturday after Earth Day, so that's the 24th, and then for the following 3 Saturdays as well, we have community cleanup events in each of the quadrants. If you go to our website, cabq.gov cleanup, you can find all the information on how to register, but it's a great way to be, again, part of your community and cleaning up litter, cleaning up areas around your neighborhood and your community. And that's part of our Keep Albuquerque Beautiful campaign.
Awesome.
Okay, that was a lot. I'm sorry.
I just put that in the chat.
No, that was good. That was a lot of good information.
I love it.
I love the reusable containers. I just never even thought about that.
Yeah, and believe it or not, well, COVID, I don't go out so much, but I would be in a restaurant and I'd whip this out of my purse, and literally people are like, "Where'd you get that? What is that?" And, to be safe, I think you could still use it during COVID, but you would obviously just have your plate of food and you'd put your own food in here versus, giving it to the server, but I think it's still useful information.
Totally. Which direction are we going, Molly?
All right, so I'll just build on what Jill said. So I think, reduce and reuse are always the most important. So recycling is something we need to do. But after we reduce and reuse, and then there's a new R called refuse. So in the days of Amazon, it's really hard to refuse a lot of packaging. But I think what they're teaching in elementary schools now is just, if you go to a store and something's overpackaged or there's a ton of packaging, think of alternative options and refuse those overpackaged options. It's a little hard right now. And I do believe that we shouldn't be really hard on ourselves either, because then we just get overwhelmed and we just don't care anymore. And so I know that's something that happens to us as human beings as well. But the leading by example thing, the pizza box is contaminated, right? So it's contaminated with grease usually, and there's no way to separate the oil from the cardboard in any recycling process. And so I think when people are more educated about what contaminants are and what contamination is, then they start to go, oh, so I probably shouldn't throw this bottle,
Yes.
this bottle of soda into the recycling container. I should empty it first, because if that soda gets out, then it contaminates all of the materials in there, right? So if a paper is saturated with sugar, it might not be recyclable anymore. So I think talking about that, or doing a little of your own research on what contamination is a good start. But then the leading by example thing, I have this really cool story. When I moved to Albuquerque, I'm from Minneapolis proper, not the suburbs. I always have to clarify that. I moved here and I was like, why does everyone's yards filled with rocks, right? And I quickly was like, oh, they don't have a lot of water here. So they're trying to reduce water, but I did some research and I found out that a yard full of rocks is actually increasing the heat island effect around your property. So then you're using more energy to cool down your property. And so you're using more resources in the end, not necessarily water, but energy and water are connected as well. And that's a whole other conversation. So I was like, well, what would be a better thing to do? And I read that wood mulch or pecan mulch or some other kind of mulch that nurtures the soil and holds the water in the soil, whatever water falls on the property, that's actually better than rocks because it's cooling down the area around your house. And it's better for the soil, and you're just nurturing the entire environment. So then you can start creating a refuge for all of the little critters that actually live in the city. And so I removed at my house all of the rock. I pushed it to one side of the yard. It's in this giant mound, and then I put mulch all over. So I'm this girl from Minnesota who's like, I'm figuring it out. I'm figuring out how to live in urban life in the desert.
Yeah.
So my neighbor, she's like 70 years old across the street, just comes out there every day and with her hands on her hips and is just watching me and not saying anything. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm making her so mad because I'm changing stuff. And then one day I wake up in the morning or something, and her whole yard is covered in mulch and her rock is gone. And I was like, I went over and talked to her and I'm like, oh my gosh, why did you do this? She goes, well, I figure you're young, you know what you're doing. And so that was our whole conversation about it. And wow. From that moment forward, I realized that people are paying attention. And even if they're not directly asking questions, they are observing answers, I guess, to things that they have understood in their minds are maybe a problem. And so on that note, composting, creating the area around your own house, even if you have an apartment, if you live in an apartment, you can still vermicompost with worms. You can get a little worm tower. You can just really contribute to that, reduce your impact on the environment by really concentrating on how you feel and what your property or what your rental property looks like and feels like. Yeah, so you can, I have a compost bin, but I don't garden right now. That's something that I'm still kind of learning how to do, but I'm trying to reduce the stuff I'm putting into the landfill, generating all that methane. So I just throw it all into my yard in a bin and turn it once in a while so that it doesn't smell. But there's just a million things that you can do while also nurturing your environment and where you live.
And this goes for, I mean, all of that is like such a great example, as you were saying, as far as like, I've got my little kids, my littlest ones, and they've always seen me, you know, the little rings that go around the soda cans or whatever, the plastic. And I've always been like, save the turtles, save, you know, like, and cut them up so that way it doesn't, these are things that I saw as a kid, right? Growing up with my parents kind of leading this example. And then, you know, now with my kids, it's the same thing, but also adding to that education and researching. And like last year, the gardening, we were all just kind of like, well, we've never gardened before, so this is going to be a whole new learning experience for us. And composting was one of the things that we were super interested in because, you know, banana peels, I did not know this until recently, but the banana peels, we can use them for so many different things. You can soak them in water and use them as a fertilizer for the plants that you do have. They're really great for like our rose bushes. You can use a banana peel in probably just about any gardening or any style of composting ever. And I was just like, how impressive. I love bananas. So it is, it's so cool. All the stuff that you start picking up and learning when it's kind of come to the forefront, right? And I don't know, Amanda, do you guys?
I think like what Jill had mentioned, you know, the pandemic seemed to increase participation in things like that. Recycling, being more aware of what you're doing at home. Because I think before this, we were all rushing around and, you know, we were at home for a couple hours, sleep, and then we go right back to work where usually it's a little more organized. Because like under my desk, I have a trash bin, recycle bin. And that's for like all of CNM. So we, you know, it's clear, it's right there. But at home, I think we've all kind of self-learned. We've heard things in the media. And I think we just became just a little bit more aware, a little bit more responsible this past year. Molly, Jill, have you guys seen any other like trends? Like Felicia started a garden. How many people were at Home Depot and Lowe's? And yeah.
I think a lot of people have started gardening and trying to do stuff like that. My stepdaughter, she got a little plot in the North Valley with her mom, and they've been gardening down there. And I'm like, will you help me? And they're like, sure. I'm like, you can use my entire backyard. Because I'm from the Midwest, I'm like, I think I know what I'm doing and I can keep the plants that I have in my yard alive. But when it comes to food, I get a little bit nervous. And so it's totally, I believe that people, now that they've been able to experience their home life in a different way, have really invested in these projects. And now no one wants to go back to work.
I know. We're like, so much
I was going to just chime in on Felicia's story of the banana peels. So I also have a home composting bin, but I have worms in it, and it's outside. You know, it's a regular compost bin, but I have added worms, and they do a lot of work for you. So I highly recommend that. But anyway, I read somewhere that they really like coffee grounds. And I don't even know if it's true, but it's a great story. So I am like into coffee, especially during COVID. And I save all my grounds and I put them in my compost as well as food and things. And I just have this sense of like, I am helping my worms. You know, every time I drink coffee, I'm contributing to the health of my worms.
Your worms are going to be working faster. They're going to be so caffeinated. They're going to be like, gotta get this compost going.
They're caffeinated worms, exactly.
You've created coffee worms.
Yep.
So
but it really is still the coffee ground cleans out their insides so they can keep you know, decomposing all the stuff. So
see, Amanda, you know. Oh my gosh.
Thank you.
And that's what's so great. Again, like just getting it, like starts with this one little spark, right? This one little spark, and then it kind of grows into this little like flame, and then it can be a wild, you know, like a forest fire if you let it get too crazy. But you know, another thing that my kiddos were researching was hair. If you mix hair in with your soil, so for Molly, you're starting a garden from like new, so you have to turn the dirt, you have to add enriched soil, you have to add all these things to it to help it so that your plants and everything will be sustained and they won't just, you know, die because there's no nutrients. And my oldest daughter, she was looking up and she said, Mom, did you know if we put our hair, because of the certain proteins and stuff in our hair, if you mix, like, I don't know about you guys, but when I brush my hair, I have a whole brush full of hair and I just like pull it out and clean it. And I'm like, this is so great because you just mix it in with the soil and it adds so many different nutrients to your soil without you having to go and spend a whole bunch of money on specialized like nutrients to add to your soil. So, you know, those are, I think, fun little tricks to help save, because you don't want to, you know, you don't want to spend so much money on building this garden and then your plants don't survive. I know that's how I was thinking. I'm like, I don't really want to buy a $20 fertilizer bag. So what else can I do to help this, you know? And I think composting is awesome. And before we were going to have this conversation, Amanda had sent me this cool like So in other places, what are they, what kind of things are they seeing with this whole being at home, COVID, as far as their sustainability? And Amanda, I'll let you ask the question or go in that route of what we were talking about, because it's like, what do we need to do to keep this up after COVID? After we have to go back to, I guess, I don't know, new normal.
Right, because I think what a lot of us saw at the beginning of lockdown, so everybody's locked up, and you see the canals in Venice are clear and there's dolphins there. You see so much of our wildlife like coming back because, the human footprint is not out there. They're kind of reclaiming back their land. And I think a lot of us will be sad to see any of that go back to what it used to be. So I think this is it was a great pause in time for us to think of the future and what we can do to continually keep our environment clean. So I don't know. I know I can like take some advice of what you ladies said and be that peer pressure, that good peer pressure, get people recycling. But what do you two see for like the future of maybe Albuquerque, C&M, where we can like step up our game?
I would really like to advocate for, and I know that this is an accessibility issue for some people and a time issue for some people, but I have a hard time figuring out how, when I'm in the office, how to get in some kind of exercise at all during the day. And I find myself driving from campus to campus or campus to home, just I work at all the campuses. And so I feel like I'm always in my car, even though I live in Nob Hill and my main office is on main campus, which is within 2 miles. And when I am not, if there's any day where I do not have to drive to a different campus or whatever the case may be, I will ride my bike to work or walk. So I walk or ride my bike. And then sometimes that becomes tricky if there's no one at home and I have an elderly dog and I need to go feed him during lunch, but I try to like plan out way in advance when I can walk or bike. And if that happens once a month, great. If it happens once a week, great. Because then I'm like, oh, I don't have to like figure out how to like get some sort of fitness activity in for that day. Or it's like 2 birds with 1 stone, And so just little tiny things like that, like really scheduling in for yourself. How do I not use my car as much on this day? Is there any possible way? And I know it's not possible for everybody because of kids and just time constraints. And like myself, I'm just like a chicken with my head cut off at C&M. But it really helps my peace of mind. It helps me connect with my neighborhood. And it helps me reduce my own carbon footprint because those short little trips through the city really are what, hurt the environment. And I know it shouldn't all be on our shoulders. And I don't think that anyone should ever be overwhelmed because it's really not our fault that the world is this way. But we can do our part and feel really good about doing it just by tiny little things like that. And so Albuquerque is becoming more bicycle friendly and more pedestrian friendly, way more than when I first moved here. And the more people that we get to trust or to look at those opportunities, the safer it will become. So it'll become more and more safe the more that people decide to be pedestrians rather than in their car all the time. So that's one thing that I think people sort of forget about or don't think they have time to do.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
I wanted to expand a little bit on what Amanda said about recycling. I think that people are they're at home. A lot of people are at home. They have their system for recycling. They're really in control of, their kitchen and everything that's recycled at their house. And I'm hoping they carry that mindset back to work. I think most people, again, can recycle at home, but at work, sometimes they can, sometimes they can't, depending on where they work. And so, the city offers recycling for businesses. There's private companies that offer recycling for businesses. And so I'm hoping people take that mindset to work and say, hey, you know, I've been doing this for the last year at home. Now I have this, you know, this water bottle or this soda can at work. I want to recycle it. And so I think that could be a real positive, that people take what they learned and can make those changes at work as well. The interesting thing about the pandemic is we really didn't see an increase in the amount of trash. We just didn't see it. You know, at the landfill, this pretty much the same amount is going to the landfill. What we did see is a huge increase in residential trash, which commercial trash decreased, you know, because a lot of businesses were operating at limited capacity, you know, if at all. And so it's funny, it didn't really change our overall footprint, but it just moved it from commercial businesses to home. And again, I'm hoping we can move that mindset back to the businesses and be a little more effective recycling and diverting waste at businesses.
Wow. And vermicomposting at businesses too. So in break rooms, you can have your own little worm tower. We have those at C&M in certain places. Like in break rooms, there's like a worm tower. And so there'll be someone like in charge of it in the break room who's constantly making sure people are feeding the worms correctly. And so like, I think we could even go a step above that and be like, hey, and then also in the break room, let's have a worm tower. I know it sounds gross to some people, but most people are okay with it.
I am so down with a worm tower. I would love it.
I really had to change minds once we got it into our break room because people thought, ew, gross, worms, they're gonna escape. I don't understand what they thought they would do once they escape.
They do escape sometimes, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. And they kind of dry out and they're just there. So, you know, it's their own death sentence, but
yes.
That has been like a huge thing for CNM is our vermicomposting. I've taken the tower to a few of the elementary schools. Oh my goodness, do the kids love it. They love holding the worms, seeing what they do and that they actually have jobs. They're not just worms. They're working all day. So I think that is just like a great way for somebody to start. And you know, you have like little pets. You can't name them all, but really awesome to have.
I had no idea. Well, and two, so I started CNM right before the lockdown. So I wouldn't have, you know, I barely got out to the different campuses this last year for a little bit. And I loved seeing all the like different things that we have out in Rio Rancho. And I believe Westside, they're creating like a loop, walking loop. So that way, you know, employees can get up and students and everybody can take kind of like a brain break. You know, and for us in our household, if we go out for a walk, like in the afternoon, my kids, I'm like, bring that Walmart plastic bag that we were trying to get rid of, right? With the mayor changing it to, you know, use the reusable bags or don't taking the plastic bags out of the stores. Well, we had to go back to that, right? With the pandemic. I'm like, grab one of those. We're going to pick up trash as we walk in our neighborhood. We're going to, you know, and then depending on what it is, it'll go in like one bag for recycle, one bag for trash. And then it goes in our recycle or our trash can. But, you know, I think it really does. We can't clean our whole neighborhood, but we can do a small part whenever we're out and, you know, getting our little mental breaks and stuff. And I really think in the long run, hopefully that sticks. I don't know. My kids may hate me after a while and be like, we don't care. I don't know. I'm hoping it doesn't go that way, but you know, I want to make it fun too.
Such a great idea, Felicia. So Jill mentioned the community cleanup in all the different quadrants. I'm wondering if our CNM folks can get out into their own neighborhoods, see how much trash they can collect, make it a competition, post it on our CNM Sustainability Instagram page.
Yeah.
So we can show, you know, that our CNM community wants to make that impact. I've seen so many people out there walking what our step challenge.
Oh yeah, the step challenge. Yeah. I wonder if we can create a hashtag, like hashtag CNM cleanup or hashtag something. And then, you know, we could share it with maybe your department, Bill, and let you know that we're out we're out trying to do our part.
Yeah, no, and I just want to make sure you understand there's support from the city as well. So you would bring the trash that you collect to one central location and we whisk it away, you know, for free. So it's not that you're just on your own. So yeah, that sounds great. If you get on our website, I know your main campus would be Southeast, and that is April 24th. But again, all the successive Saturdays we have for your other campuses as well. So that'd be great. That'd be great if we could get together on that.
Awesome. That's something we'll put in our follow-up email too, because we send out a follow-up email to our attendees and, you know, with links and information of stuff that we've gone over, you know, and so that's awesome. I love that. All right. Okay, yes, Amanda, we're going to be wearing our C&M Cares shirts and we're going to be out there picking up trash, cleaning up.
I will.
I will too, and I can market it on C&M Sustainability Instagram. So whatever you all come up with, just feed me the information and I will put it all over our Instagram. And I'll ask MCO to run a story on it as well.
Oh, that would be great.
That's great.
And there's our connection. I love it. I love it. Right on time, 10:45. Yeah, right. There's our connection. I love that. Well, thank you both so much for taking the time to talk with us and get us, you know, a little more educated on what we can do, because it is, I have a feeling that, you know, once life starts happening again, you know, we're gonna get away from all the good habits that we were creating this last year and hopefully not. I don't know.
Yeah, we just got to keep up the momentum and peer pressure.
Oh, yes.
The good kind of trouble.
And I'm going to tell my brother he was right about the pizza box. I got to go back and have a humble pie and tell him he was right about the pizza box.
Well, thank you both. It was so good to talk to you both. And you guys just I'm so full of information. I'm going to have to process it a little bit later, but I'm excited about our cleanup event. So.
Yes.
So thank you too.
Thanks for having me.
Much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It was very nice meeting you all.
You as well. And I'm going to go look for those little containers. That is so cool. I'm whipping them out everywhere.
Exactly.
We need some for C&M. We need to get some for C&M with our logo on them. That would be super cool. All right.
I'm going to email the foundation.
Okay. Have a great day, ladies.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.